Hey guys, Cyber Rob here. Another daily episode of talking AI in general. Tonight's topic will be of humanoid robots. Should we be scared, terrified, nervous? What kind of emotions do you think that can transpire from this? I'm coming to you from the heart of the Bay Area, home of Silicon Valley and San Jose. We're not talking sci fi at all. We're talking hard reality. I see it every day, right? At the job that I am currently in, working with AI on a daily basis. To me, I think because I see it every day, it's definitely something that I get taken aback upon every single day, knowing that this technology is forming really quickly. And there's no Hollywood special effects, there's no exaggerating of the headlines. It's just real time humanoid robots. It's closer than we think and far more impactful than most people dare to imagine. Let's think about it this way. Let's cut through all the noise and all the chatter that you hear about that we are far away from even having this become a reality. I totally disagree with that. I think it's sooner than we think. Forget all the flashy videos that Boston Dynamics does on the backflips and the dancing. The utility is where it's at. A good example is that Figure One robots were already in BMW factories, placing one part of a car and putting it into a body and white machine in order for that to get welded together. That's just one humanoid robot. I just can't imagine when you have a whole company that's just dedicated to that. Imagine just a humanoid robot just doing the most repetitive tasks, right? Picking up one object and placing it somewhere else on the factory floor, right? I think that a lot of people see that redundancy boring, right? And I think a humanoid robot can easily do that, in my opinion, right? I truly believe that once a humanoid robot can literally take a needle and a thread and kind of just weave it into that needle and start to sew, I think that is going to be kind of a game changer, in my opinion. I just think there's so much complexity in our hands, right? We use our hands daily to do complex tasks and jobs. So I think once that happens with robots starting to become physical laborers in that perspective, I think it's going to transform the world as we know it, right? Right now, robots are excelling in what we call, I would say, the 3Ds: dull, dirty, and dangerous jobs. These are the roles I think that humans hate and the ones that lead to a lot of burnout, right? Injury or soul sucking, right? Monogamous tasks of doing things repetitively, right? Think high volume manufacturing lines is like what I said, right? Imagine what we see from Figure One, taking from one component and putting it into another, into a cell, or even taking one object out of somewhere and putting it somewhere else, right? I mean, that's just how I look at it. Or turning knobs or pushing buttons on a machine, right? Something that humans do constantly, right? We're seeing them being deployed in warehouses. So you can only imagine the scale if humanoid robots can take over that warehouse type of duty, right? Uh, Picking things off shelves or even replacing things on shelves or restocking, right? I think those low labor skill jobs are going to be almost easy taking for a company to come in and to go ahead and take that human out and then maybe put that human in somewhere else, right? In a different position that's more complex, right? Over time, I think with the development of I think robots, humanoid robots, will become more complex as us as humans. They'll become more smarter than us. They'll be able to handle more tasks better than us and go nonstop, right? Because if they can charge and that charge lasts for, let's say, the duration of us as humans being awake for 16 hours, that's a huge thing, right? That means that they can go to work and not, call out sick or do a whole bunch of other things that us humans are not capable of doing on a day-to-day basis, in that realm, right? People often make a mistake. They visualize a human brain uh, magically transferred into a robot body. I mean, it could happen pretty soon. Neuralink is trying to do something in that kind of realm to where I think you can merge your conscience or your subconscious into a robot, but that's going to be later on. Um, in that perspective, but that's how far I think that it can visually go. Even transfer your conscience from your human body into a kind of cyborg like body, right? So I think that will be somewhere in our future down the line of the state of the art AI for recognizing things like that to become human slash robotic, right? So, and I think that over time, if we can have the hand, which is the most, dexterous, complex, I think, form of our body, because it can just do so many things, right? And have so many angles of, degrees of freedom. I think once that starts to happen with robots, I think that we are going to be looking at a drastically different world, right? So if they can do physically do stuff like that and then act more human as a conscience level, I think that we are going to be in a different reality of what we're used to. A lot of people are scared about the humanoid robots, and I get it. It definitely is a scary thing, especially if you're not in a type of situation where I see it on a daily basis, right? And I think that that's going to be scary and then exciting at the same time, because I remember when I was younger watching Star Wars and C3PO and R2D2 having these type of companions are going to be, I think, a very good thing in reality for us, right? Imagine it can help fill in some of the gaps on where we're missing, right? So let's talk. Let's fast forward a little bit, right? Not decades in the future, but let's say like 5 years, 2030 ish or so. What changes? Honestly, probably everything, right? Um, that's just me being a confident predictor on where AI is exponentially going at this rate, right? At a fast rate than I was even expecting. And that can mean that we could have potentially, uh, I would say, a shortage of high skilled jobs, right? Of that blue collar type job, or no, I mean the white collar type job, right? Software engineers, anything that has to do with a computer can be taken over by an AI robot or even an AI system like software. I think that in a humanoid robot form, we're talking about things that maybe we have a shortage of, like healthcare, right? To have, say, a elderly parent or a disabled family member, and now that you have care 24/7, that a humanoid robot can help them get through their daily life, right? I think that's where we're in a shortage of, is a lot of healthcare workers in that perspective, right? Or even the elderly, taking care of them, right? Giving them, I would say, companionship or helping them out with their day to day living, whether it be going to the grocery store for them or helping them with their medication or helping them walk from room to room or place to place, or even transporting them from place to place. I think Elon has it kind of right in the universal uh, high income, which I think is a mixed reaction. What you could take that as both, right? I think if we can try to learn or teach people the skills to use AI in their lives or create businesses or whatnot with it, I think that will rely less on government than we can assume, right? But then I would say it's going to displace a lot of people in a lot of jobs, right? That's why I think the blue collar workers, right? The HVACs, technicians, the plumbers, the electricians, all those type of blue collar hard work. I think that's fairly complex. I think will be the last jobs to go, in my opinion, just because that's just where the shortage is at this given moment. So, but there also could be a drastic shift in society, right? Because imagine now that humanoid robots are amongst us, and now they're doing all these productivity tasks of labor, or being inside of a warehouse, that type of thing. Can you imagine having a humanoid robot being inside of a factory, creating that specific type of product 24/7 at a very cheap rate, right? So I always give the example of, let's say a box of cereal costs $5, which I know it doesn't, but let's just say it costs $5 to, you know, uh, to produce, package, and get it transported and into shelves, right? Now imagine that humanoid robots are doing all that productive work, right? Creating the cereal box and packaging the cereal, and then driving that, on an autonomous semi truck into the store where a humanoid robot stocks the shelves, right? Now that $5 box of cereal becomes, say, 50 cents. I think we are in a hyper abundance now, right, of goods and services that I don't think a lot of people are prepared for, or what it could lead to in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that technology has definitely caught up with us, right? And I think by 2030, we won't see these robots in a few experimental facilities. I think they'll be in mass production in that sense, right? I don't think growth uh, is going to be slowing down anytime soon. Jobs definitely will change, but many of the repetitive, physically taxing, hazardous, or simply mundane jobs will effectively be gone, right? Um, this is where I clearly think by 2030, that's where it's going to happen. I think by 2035, 2040, we might be looking at a hyperabundance of goods and services, right? And I think the widespread adoption becomes inevitable for businesses worldwide, right? This isn't just Bay Area tech bubble phenomenon. I think that this is a global revolution in labor productivity, efficiency, and safety. And I think we all have to be prepared for it, right? So I just think that our daily lives will drastically be changing. Imagine you can have your own humanoid robot in the home with you, right? A lot of people are looking at declining population too, right, of the humans race. I think that if you have a functional humanoid robot that is as smart as you as a human and as strong as you as a human, I think we are looking at maybe a baby boom in that manner, because now you have help with a humanoid robot that can take care of your kids, almost be like a nanny and a teacher at the same time. I mean, that humanoid robot has access to information that is probably going to be vast superior than I think as humans, right? So I think it can all change in our daily lives, right? Uh, to have that type of help in that sense, right? So I think that a lot of things will change from, I think, work home life balance that is going to transpire. I think that um, I think it'll be freeing up more time for family time in that sense, right? So that's just kind of how I'm looking at things in the realm of future, right? And I could be totally wrong. I'm just taking a hypothetical guess on where these humanoid robots could take us, right? And I think if we can try to figure out a way to almost not be intimidated by this, and hopefully that it could help us uh, do probably crazy things. And I think the almost crazy thing that I'm thinking of is that, can you imagine if we can go to Mars, right? But instead of humans going first, humanoid robots go first and build the colony in order for us to be prepared to land on Mars and to inhabit Mars, right? I just think that there's just a lot of stuff that people are not thinking far into the future like I am, right? Or even using that humanoid robot to your advantage, right? Can you imagine just having, I always say, a army full of robots that are out there as your workers, and they are, gardening or housekeeping or being janitors or whatever the case may be, that you want to form a business with humanoid robots, right? And I kind of agree with Elon in the sense of we could have three, four, five, 6 to 1 robots to humans. I could totally see that, because I think that between, like Boston Dynamics, Figure One, 1X, Tesla, I think those four robotic companies, I think that are mainstream right now, will be able to hopefully uh, be part of that big gig economy for it, right? So, and eventually I think it'll go I know each company has their specific thing, right? Trying to either get into the home or trying to get into like manufacturing or factory floors or whatnot. That's what I kind of think. So imagine eventually your home, think beyond a Roomba, right? Cleaning. uh, a general purpose robot that can help you with your business, help you with the home, I think is not something that's in the 2030s or 2040 range. I truly believe in the 2030s, in that decade of 2030 to 2040. I think that is going to be the most substantial change in society, for having robots walking amongst us, almost like the movie Will Smith with iRobots. I think we are headed in that general direction. And I just hope it doesn't lead to Skynet and Terminator at this point. But that's just something that us as humans are going to take a risk upon in that happening, right? And technology always trickles down from enterprise to consumer, right? So it's only inevitable that trajectory. Okay, your smart home is about to get a lot smarter and a lot more physically capable of when that does happen. Okay, I think the biggest elephant in the room is what I said earlier, is probably going to be jobs, right? The honest truth, I know a lot of people are scared and anxious about this, and I'm trying to relay the message that yes, I think I am more in the, I would say, excitement, anxious category compared to scared, just because of what my particular job that I see on a daily basis has become, right? So I think, yeah, many jobs probably will be displaced, but fundamentally, I think physically demanding jobs are easily going to be replaced, right? I think they'll disappear, with an undeniable fact that they will, because to get those out, I think is low hanging fruit, right? So I just think that it's just best that us as humans prepare to try to get into something else, right? And I think that is the best way to curb your anxiety of having humanoid robots become of us, right? So I think that most people are not approaching this in the right manner to think in this way. I mean, I think a lot of people are accustomed to like ChatGPT and everything, or Grok, or OpenClaw, maybe Anthropic, or in some of those realms of AI companies, NVIDIA. I think that they are kind of, I think it's becoming, start to get louder and louder as time goes on and as technology emerges, faster than we think, right? So I think that entire industries are probably not going to exist how they were maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, right? I think who can have predicted a social media manager or a prompt engineer a couple decades ago, right? Now, imagine the explosion of new roles required to be a fully roboticized economy, right? Who designs the robots? Who builds the robots of highly specialized components, right? Who writes and defines their incredibly complex software, right? I think the software is going to be the biggest one, right? Software and hardware have to merge together. Who maintains them? Who maintains the vast distributed fleets of these robots? Who develops and trains the next generation of underlying AI models? These are all new jobs that I can see being created, right? And those are going to be generally high skilled, well paying jobs, right? Anything that you have to do physically with your hands, I think is going to be the most sought out, I think, positions. And I hope people are just prepared that if they can handle that, I think they'll be in good shape, right? We will need entirely new ecosystems of professionals, right? Robot supervisors who oversees a large group of these autonomous workers, right? Almost like a fleet manager, except for with robots, right? And these robot trainers who guides their learning processes. I think highly skilled robot repair and maintenance technicians is another big one, right? Or data collectors who provide the critical training data that fuels the AI's learning. Designers of the new bots of applications, right? Uh, Identifying untapped markets and solutions. So if you can, it's almost like the Matrix, right? If you could download, like how Neo did, right? He downloaded Kung Fu, right? And he learned Kung Fu. Can you imagine if your humanoid robot can download being a chef or a housekeeper or a nanny or a teacher? That can even include a preschool teacher all the way up to a college professor, right? Imagine all these things that they're going to need software engineers and software coding and everything for that to happen, right? It's either these are, I think, untapped skills that people are going to need to learn really quickly, right? I think people need to invest in some type of AI so they can get used to it, right? So when it does happen, that they are not caught off guard with humanoid robots that are going to be, you know, taking a big part of our lives. So I think what kind of human jobs disappear or don't disappear? I think almost human like creativity, complex, and even like a conscience, right? Because currently, right now, like example, ChatGPT is more robotic. It's not more like a human, right? It hasn't gotten that emotional intelligence yet from what we just like mad, sad, empathy, just human emotions. I think, right? I think that's just a psychological insight. I think is what is going to be missing from humanoid robots. It might. I think it's going to take some time for that, for them to kind of create skills like that. It's almost like Data from Star Trek, right? He's half man, half like a robot, right? So that's kind of how I think about it, right? So I think like my bold predictions on humanoid robots, I think is going to be um, I think it's going to be pretty much high manufacturing of these robots in the near term, right? And I think there is a big, potentially humongous, actually, market cap for it, right? I think, if I read this correctly, Kathy Wood's ARK Invest is considering the humanoid robot market cap at $10 trillion. I think the whole, I don't remember, I think the whole US economy, I think yearly is 20 trillion, but I could be wrong. I just got to double check on that. So I think uh, I think there's going to be a lot of publicly traded manufacturing companies that are going to be you know um, sprawled up from this too, right? We're going to need batteries. We're going to need motors. We're going to need you know copper. All this wiring stuff in order for all that to happen. There's going to probably be new jobs for that to create more wealth for an individual, right? I think uh, I think by 2030, I think we'll have a fully loaded operational costs to rent a humanoid robot for basic repetitive labor tasks, right? Will be, I think, a pretty big desirable to do in order for that to transpire for for businesses to grow, right? This is definitely a cost advantage, and I'm hoping that if they do see humanoid robots, which I think they will because of human labor, become like robot labor. I'm hoping that those cost savings will be coming down to us as the consumer, but I can only imagine, right? I'm hoping that big large corporations will take that into consideration, right? So I think that's kind of like the real talk that I kind of want to give to my subscribers and everything on what my thought process is and what my thinking is in the future of this vast, expanding, rapidly changing technology. That's just real talk that I'm just trying to give everybody uh, the straight up truth on what I think is probably going to transpire here in the next decade. This isn't science fiction anymore. Um, I think still people think that we're a ways away, but we're not. Okay, this is happening so fast. It's Everything is changing so quickly. Even at where I'm at, everything is just changing quickly, right? And it's gonna fundamentally change the world as we know it, right? Um, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, just start looking up things for AI, LLMs, looking up some different companies in order for you to get familiar on what is going to probably transpire with all this, okay? So that's what I'm just trying to give my subscribers an insight of what I think is going to happen, trying to give you almost like the inside scoop of things, right? Without divulging too much. So I thank you guys for tuning in on all this. I hope it was educational. Leave a comment, leave a like. Tell me what your guys' thoughts are about AI. Do you guys use AI? What do you guys think about humanoid robots? Let me know what you guys think, and hopefully I can talk to you guys soon, all right? Late.